glad to see some familiar faces. Thankfully, over the course of four or so years, we've gotten to work with your kiddos, and we just appreciate being part of their village. It does take a village to raise a child, and it's been a pleasure being part of your child's village. It ain't over yet, though, is it? So tonight we're going to talk about some of the strategies for finishing high school strong, but also laying some foundations for a good next step that they have in mind for themselves. How to not just get into their higher education, but helping pay for it as well. So just to kick things off, here we are. If you haven't gotten to meet us face to face yet, so do we want to kind of parade through?
Hi, good evening. My name is Tammy Watkins, and I'm the dual enrollment counselor.
And good evening. I'm Brandy Beal, and I serve students last names A through L that are not dual enrollment.
And as for me, I'm Kevin Young, and I serve students who are non-dual enrollment, last names M through Z. So glad to have you here. Part of our kind of creed here, I wish I remembered the official verbiage for that, but one of our PBIS overarching themes for the school: navigate your future, model respect, be highly responsible, and strive for excellence, NMHS. Beginning with the end in mind is something that falls very much under navigating your future. And so we like to tie this moment, this presentation, this experience in with that motif, with that theme, beginning with the end in mind. For starters, we're going to talk a little bit about getting across the finish line of high school, your free and public education. And as we do that, I want to make sure we have everything on hand. You should have gotten a handout packet. Starting front to back in that packet is a graduation checklist. Now we work on those, so but just so you and your kiddos can be agents of your education too, we like to still have that information in front of you, so you're aware this is what I should be doing or should have been doing over these 4 years. But we also check those at multiple stages in your high school experience. Also, there's bound to be on that graduation checklist and a review of the graduation requirements that will be presented a couple slides from now. There might be a little variation if you have come from a different school. Maybe you started somewhere else and are finishing with us here. There may have been a different course selection at the school you started with or transferred to and came back. So don't panic, but if you do have any questions about that, we're going to have some Q&A one-on-one time at the end as well. But graduation checklist, a handout about Hope and Zell Miller scholarship and grant program information. We'll also review some of that in the slides as well. And a handout we produce every year for college entrance exams, mainly ACT and SAT, and some FAQs we usually get with that. Along with two things that, if you'd like, leave them behind for us tonight. And those are the transcript request form and the Title I event evaluation form. To help keep us sharp, that evaluation form is something we do like to look at the end of each event, so we can sharpen ourselves and sharpen the next outreach event that we have, be it the next year or a similar event later in the year. And that also happens to be a requirement for Title I events, but it's good practice anyway, so we like to do that. So at the end of the presentation, or when you need to make your exit, you can just make your marks, pull that off the stack, and leave it in the basket that's on the table as you exit. Also, the transcript request form. That's if you happen to know some of the colleges you're interested in applying to. You don't need to have applied to them yet. They can match your records together later, so don't worry about that. And we're going to get into that more later as well. But if you know of a couple colleges or higher education organizations that you'd like us to send your transcript to for them to evaluate as part of your admissions package with them, you can drop that in the basket. We also have extras in the counseling office all the time, And so you can stop by for one of those later if need be as well. All this and more is going to be available on a senior info page on the counseling website in the next week or so. All right, so to kick things off here, we're going to go over the graduation requirements, and we're going to start that with, Miss Watkins.
Okay, again, welcome. Mr. Young does a great job kicking off the senior night. So if you guys want to, you can read along with the slide. You can kind of look at the slide and look at your checklist that you have. So if you see anything that you, at the end, you can ask some questions about it if need be. And like Mr. Young said, we keep pretty good track of that. You know, our job is to get everybody graduated and on to the second chapter of their life. So for graduation requirements, you have to have 23 credits. That's the minimum. We have students that have many more than 23 credits, but 23 credits is is the minimum you can have in the state of Georgia to graduate from high school. And you can see they're in pockets of your academic courses, but there's also CTAE, Fine Arts, and World Language requirements also. So the first thing you want to look at is the English, and each one of them in the core academic areas, you have 4 that are required for graduation. The 2 that are required from the state are 9th grade Lit and American Lit. If you look through the sequence of courses, first they have 9th grade Lit, and then any core English language class, normally it's 10th grade World Lit. So that's the second one. The third one is American Lit, and then their fourth one as seniors, they have some options that they can choose. Dramatic writing, you could have British Lit, we have some seniors who are doing English 1101, which I'm their guidance counselor for that. So if you look down below the English requirements, and as the students are sitting out there, you be sure in your head you're going through, oh yeah, I've had those, or I'm in those. So math, the 4 credits required. It's pretty simple in math. It goes, you have Algebra 1, which has an EOC that they take in 9th grade. Then geometry as sophomores. Algebra 2 is typically your junior year. And then your 4th math credit is typically pre-cal or college readiness math. In some cases, foundations of algebra or math of finance are offered. That's, the exceptions. And again, some of your seniors, some of your children may have math 1111 here, face-to-face dual enrollment, and that is also considered a 4th math. If you look over to see the science, the 4 credits required for science, we have any core science freshman. It's you guys may still have some ecology, so this group is still kind of like freshmen, may look a little different from one student to the other, but the 3 that they have to have, and excuse me if I go in and out, my throat is kind of scratchy, but biology is the 10th grade year, and biology is the EOC course for the science. Chemistry or environmental science, we may have some students who have had environmental science that have came in, from a different school. And then physics or physical science, and normally biology's 10th, chemistry is 11th, and physics is the senior science. And if you look below that, you'll see our social sciences, and again, they're pretty cut and dry. You have world history, you have American government and civics. If you're a student who's came in from another school and it's a half a credit, that's acceptable. U.S. history is normally your junior year, and that is the EOC tested course for social studies in your junior year. And then econ is, for us, that's our senior social studies. And again, if you come in from a different school or state and you've had half a credit of econ, that will suffice too. Every student has to have a health and personal fitness. Health is normally half a credit, typically, and personal fitness is also a half a credit. And if you look down at the bottom in the gray shaded area, it says CTAE, Fine Arts, World Language. 3 credits from that is required. You can do 3 CTAE or 3 Fine Arts, and that will fulfill what's called a pathway. But if for some reason you're not able to complete a pathway, you still have to have one CTAE course, one fine arts course, and a world language. Or you can mix them, but that's part of and sometimes students get confused on that, but that just makes the student more well-rounded. And about the world languages, they're not required for high school. It's not required for high school graduation, but 2 credits of the same language is required for admissions to Georgia four-year college. And it is also the completion of the advanced academic pathway. And the advanced academic pathway is pretty typical of what my students, the dual enrollment students, are able to complete that pathway. So that's another thing if your student only has academics and then dual enrollment. But the world languages is part of that advanced pathway. They have to have the 2 world languages to complete that. Okay, so it's pretty simple, and as you look on your checklist, it's more of like in line, but you can see that sequence of English, math, science, social studies, health, and PE, and the foreign languages or the world languages. And again, even Dalton State, UNG, Kennesaw, the foreign languages, you have to have those for college, for four-year college at some point. So North Murray High School classes that meet HOPE Rigor requirement. And what HOPE Rigor requirement is that amongst those 23 credits and plus that students take during their high school careers, to meet HOPE, that is to get the HOPE scholarship, which is, Mr. Young will talk about financial aid a little bit later on, but you do have to have 4 classes that are rigor to meet this requirement. Algebra 2 is a rigor course. So, and you can calculate in your head if you've had Algebra 2, you've met 1. Pre-Cal or college readiness math, pre-Cal and college readiness math are the senior maths. So you can count that in your head. You've already got 2 there. Chemistry is our junior science. So you've got 3 right there. And then physics, but you can see that it's not physical science, but physics is the 4th one. Spanish 2 also can be a rigor course. And any dual enrollment academic course, which is a core class like English, math, science, and social studies, meets it. So as you can see at North Murray High School, every student is going to meet those rigor courses just because it's embedded into the courses that they have to take. So that's always going to be met. So now you've got the classes that you need to graduate, the rigor courses that you need for HOPE. The next thing that you kind of want to think about is your GPA, and GPA obviously stands for grade point average. So for each course that a student attempts, they earn a grade point based on the letter grade that they achieve. So say your student has a 95, and you'll see that, and that's an A, right? So an A, a regular A, is worth 4 points. And then you just follow that sequence as you go. You see what the B is 3, the C is a 2.0, and the D is worth 1 point. And then you drop down and you see what honors is. But unweighted GPA, calculated using regular point scale only. So that just means your average math class, your average CTAE class, your average classes. That's the regular grading scale. Is an A is a 4.0, and it goes down to the D being a 1.0. And this allows colleges to make kind of that apples to apples, so they're not seeing something different. They know that, oh yeah, all A's are worth 4 points if they're just a regular class. If you look down at the weighted GPA, that includes any bonus points, any special points, any extra points that you get for the AP art class, or the dual enrollment courses, or your traditional honors courses that you can begin in 9th grade. And you can see how, if you look at the honors courses, they're a 4.5, and then they go from there to the D is a 1.5. If you do the AP art that we offer, or you do any of the dual enrollment courses, they're worth 5 points. So you see it gets more points added as the more challenging the classes are. So used at North Murray High School, this grade point average is used to determine the rank, the honors scholars grad status, and the valedictorian and salutatorian. And that's pretty typical of any high school that you go to, or pretty much you're familiar with. The GPA is what determines all of your scholar students, your honor students, your Val, and your Sal. And it will be calculated on this 4.0 scale. Okay. And the grad distinctions, this is where the GPA comes into play, and it's the scholar and the honor grads. So based on weighted GPA, that's where we calculate that extra weight, that 0.5 or 1 point into the GPA. Cumulative GPA at the end of the first term senior year included in progress classes. So scholar grads, this is what usually the students, their biggest question is, are they going to be a scholar grad or are they going to be an honor grad? So if you look at it, your GPA has to be greater than a 4.0. So that means that a 4.0 is not a scholar, but a 4.01 is a scholar. So that's where the scholar basically begins, is at the 4.01. And in the honor grads, as you can see, the GPA of a 3.5 to the 4.0 is your honor graduates. And second semester still matters. Like those grades are being calculated into it, so catch that second wind and end it strong and big and, stay focused there. And it says college courses can cancel acceptance as final grades tank. So basically what that means is if you have, if you drop below the admissions GPA for that college or something, but so there's always, GPA can affect your accolades or your honors or your acceptance, both good and bad. So it's always good to keep in the fight and do everything that your student can do to go to your teachers if you think your grades are slipping and you know that you want to be a scholar and you're right at that 4.0. Don't let up. Keep it up. Go to your teacher. Make sure that grade is the highest it can be. So once you have your scholar grads and your honor grads, the next one we're going to look at is your Valedictorian, and this is super simple. It is the student with the highest GPA. That's it. The highest GPA is our Valedictorian. And the Salutatorian is the student with the second highest GPA. And if there's a tie, then we have two. But the ones that have the highest GPA is the Val. The second highest is the Salutatorian. And this is kind of something to think about for those who may have moved in. But the student must have completed their entire senior year at North Murray High School, which is not, which is just something to ask for, so that our students that have been here traditionally, everybody's in the running, and if you've been here for a year, jump in there, work hard for those positions because you're eligible for it. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Bill, and she'll pick up on the college information. Thanks.
Good evening. We're going to talk about fall of 2022, which is where we are right now. So your student can go on some college visits, and we highly recommend visiting with them to the colleges of their choice. They get up to 3 excused college visit days, and these are where you schedule a visit. They're not just where you drive over to Dalton State or North Georgia and drive around and look at the campus. These are where you've made an appointment with the admissions and visited through like a tour. And usually at the end of those tours, they will give you an official signed document that you can bring back because those are excused. They do not count against them for perfect attendance. They do not count against them as truancy or anything like that. They are excused. And and if they don't get one of those at the end of their visit, either ask them or take a picture while you're there with the counselor and show us their email. We just have to have documentation that they attended and that they were there for the actual tour. So go with them. This is where you are about to leave your babies for the next 3-4 years or more. So you want to know important information, ask the questions, look at the dorms, find out how much things cost. They'll go over all the fun stuff, but ask the questions. Know and plan for your college application deadlines. So we will go through some things with the students here during November. We have Apply to College Day that we will be going into their classrooms and helping the students fill out some applications. But this is a great time for you guys to sit down together as a family and go to the website and find out when those college application deadlines are. Get that information so that you guys can start making a plan, so that you can help them. There's going to be a lot of information that they might need help with that you assume that they know, and it's a great bonding activity for both of you. Students and parents, help them remember to volunteer. A long time ago, it was always, how many extracurricular activities are you in? Can you do all the clubs and all the sports? That was what was a big deal. Now, colleges want you to be a little bit more well-rounded. They're going to want you to have extracurricular activities along with volunteer hours. Anywhere and everywhere, keep a log in like a Google Sheet or on a piece of paper, something that you're not going to lose, so that when you go to fill out all these applications, you know how many hours, and like the organizations are important that you helped with, because you might have to list them in some sort of a list form, or you might be able to upload a document. When you ask us to do college recommendation letters, we're going to have a brag sheet that we send out to you when you ask that question, and some of that's going to be where have you volunteered, what have you done with your extra time, so that we can brag on you, because we're not with you all the time. Register and study for these college entrance exams, especially if you know that the college that you want to go to is not test optional. And even if they are test optional, we recommend you still test to get that experience, and it might help you get better admissions, class schedules, things like that you might need. And sometimes we offer school day SAT in the spring, but there are many days ahead of that you can sign up for. Parents, this is something that you will have to help your student with. Complete the FAFSA, submit scholarship applications, and all that can be done online, and we have links on the counseling webpage for those. We will be doing a local scholarship application in the winter, so that is where we have lots of local businesses and organizations here in Murray County and Whitfield County who provide money for our students, and I send that out to the entire senior class. So when you start to see things on social media, or if you are signed up with Parent Portal, we will send out messages saying, check with your student about the local scholarship application. All your students should be already in a senior Google Classroom, where we are posting daily, if not weekly, different opportunities for them to go ahead and start the process. You can compose some personal essays and resumes in your free time that you can use later for some of these college applications. And keep files of college applications, scholarship applications, financial aid information, recommendation letters, etc. And you can make that in your Google Drive. If you have a personal Google account or some other kind of way to save information, I'd recommend making a copy onto that, because eventually your student Google account will disappear once you graduate. So parents, help them with that. Show them how to make personal Google information, or help them learn how to save on another document type. That way they don't lose their information from the school. We're going to begin with the end in mind. We mentioned that earlier. After you have done all the things all the way up until May and graduation day comes, what's next? Where do we go? That can be exciting yet scary, because we don't know where we're going to go sometimes. And that's okay. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you and your parents figure that next step out. So what are colleges looking for? The typical college, they're going to be looking for strong grades, solid ACT or SAT scores. Most colleges that have waived that requirement in the last couple years with COVID are starting to reinstate that requirement, and on their website you should be able to find that information. And challenging curriculum. So the courses that you have taken over the last 3 years and 2 months will reflect on your high school transcript that the college will get. And how do they get their college transcript, or their high school transcript, I'm sorry, is the student has to fill out that transcript request form some point between now and graduation and turn it into either one of us or Miss Miles. Miss Miles in the counseling office is the person who will actually send that. Competitive colleges want you to go above and beyond. They want involvement activities, community service, work, or internships, especially in the field that you're interested in. Well-written application essays. I highly recommend, if you have a trusted English teacher here at school or somebody you know outside of school, to read your essays for you. It's okay if your first draft is not perfect. Nobody's ever is. We want lots of ways to brag on you, and you want to brag on yourself in these essays and make them their best that you possibly can. So get help with them. And then positive recommendations. You can ask your school counselor for recommendations. We also highly encourage you to ask teachers that you have positive relationships with for a recommendation. Teachers or other community members, if you are in an internship or you know somebody from work or that your parents work with, or church, or any kind of volunteer, those are always good recommendations. It's always nice to have those on file, ready to go. The college application process. It's scary at first, but just do it. Start one. You don't need all the items ready at the moment that you open the application. Actually, most of the time, these colleges are going to make you make an account, and you're going to need some kind of portal access from them, which is the account, and you just have to finish it by the deadline. Whatever their deadline is, finish it. A lot of these will take some time, so you may not be able to get them all done in one sitting. Applications are typically found among college website admissions pages, so dig around on the college website and look under admissions, and you should be able to find them. A lot of them are putting it now at the top in a banner that says apply here. It's very bold at the top a lot of times now. We went through the transcripts. You request them through the counseling office. For dual enrollment students, if you are currently a dual enrollment student, you must also request your transcripts directly from GNTC or Dalton State College for your to go to your college of interest. And if you are a dual enrollment student and you need help with that, you contact Ms. Watkins later, and she can help you walk you through that process. But you, as the student, actually have to do that part. She cannot request that on your behalf. You have to do all of that on your own. Your ACT or SAT scores, you must order official score reports through their website. So when you sign up for one of those, most of the time it's going to ask you where do you want your transcript or your SAT scores to be sent, and you can have them sent then. If you decide later you want to go somewhere else and you did not send them at the time that you took the test, go back in to the website of that test, and you can pay to have them sent separately again. Some colleges may also require essays or recommendation letters, like I mentioned before. The college entrance exams, they're different approach to test design. One test may show a student's strengths better than the other, so we recommend you take both at different times, and you can pick and choose. We are a SAT testing site, so when you get to pick on College Board, you can pick the North Murray testing site. They're on Saturday mornings at like 8 a.m. always. ACT testing sites differ depending on who is offering them. Colleges generally accept scores from either test and consider your best score, so you can take them multiple times. You do have to pay for each time you sign up for them. But if you didn't get the best score the first time, it's okay. Study, get with your math teacher, get with an English teacher, whichever score you're trying to improve, and they can help you get to your next goal. Try each one at least once and then retake whichever shows your strengths better. Some people really do better with the ACT, and some people do really well with the SAT. It kind of just depends on the testing style and the student. See your counselor for a fee waiver if you are on a free or reduced lunch, and you can get two. Yes. So your student could get 2 SATs or 2 ACT free waivers. And if they got one last year, that counts towards their 2, okay? Oh, okay, so I'm sorry. ACT has recently expanded to 4. So if you've already used up all your SAT free waivers, go for that ACT. Try it. Tech schools, community colleges can commonly have other test options that are flexible and that are included with their application fees. So again, if you know you're going to go to a technical college or a community college, check their website before you pay to take one of these tests. Make sure you look at that calendar and schedule accordingly, because I'd hate for you to sign up for one of them and then not be able to make it because you have a prior engagement. Make sure you put that on your calendars. College-bound student athletes. I'm going to go over some of this information, but if you have specific questions, if your child is looking at playing athletics at the next level, Mr. Young is our typical NCAA liaison or NAIA, and he has most of the information for that, but this is just the basics. You'll see the college athletics page to see their affiliation, if they are NCAA or NAIA, and talk to your coach as well. And a lot of times the recruiters from the colleges are going to send out information if they're interested in your student. You still need to apply to that college. This is a common misconception that if you get recruited, then they just automatically take you. And there is a process they still have to be, accepted into that college. Admissions and athletics are completely separate. They can have people that help you bridge that gap between the two, but you actually have to still apply. Not accepted by the NCAA are APEX courses that we use for credit recovery. Credit by EOC if for some reason your student got credit by taking just the EOC, or college readiness math. But don't panic if your student is in college readiness math and they are definitely bound to play ball somewhere else. They only require the 3 maths, so hopefully they had the 3 at the freshman, sophomore, and junior level. You can visit Miss Miles in the counseling office. She's our secretary to complete an athletics transcript form. We get lots of questions like, hey, this recruiter is talking to me and they want my information. They still have to fill out a form. We cannot release information to just anybody without signatures from the student. And always talk to Mr. Young if you are really interested in going anywhere that includes cheerleading, band, like those kinds of things where you're going to get those scholarships, and he can help you with that. And we're going to move on into financial aid.
There's a few different components of higher education financial aid. And if you'll excuse me, I will use higher ed or college interchangeably, but please know, when we use the term college, we are meaning very broad categorically higher education. So that can be anything like 4-year program, a 2-year program for degrees, or some of the technical programs that can lead towards diplomas and certificates. Okay. There's higher education, financial aid available for all of that, and several of the following slides and several of the tidbits you heard earlier still apply regardless of where you get your higher education. Just wanted you to know that. So, of the different components of higher education financial aid, there's really, it boils down to, I think it was 4 different categories. Federal financial aid, state financial aid from the higher ed institution itself, and so they may be like, hey, we want you to come here. We're going to throw some money at you just to make it worth your while. And then there's financial aid sources out there that you might find independently. Say some of these scholarships that we talked about earlier that you may apply for that aren't affiliated with Uncle Sam the state of Georgia or the college itself. Okay, so those are the 4 overarching sources of financial aid, and we're going to start with federal. That's the big kahuna. And just to put it into perspective, a few years ago I heard the figure of $8 out of every 10 of higher ed financial aid that people collected towards their education was from a FAFSA-related source. The FAFSA does not give the money, but it is your application to multiple sources of financial aid. And so, see what I mean when I said big kahuna. This one is a heavy hitter. So the FAFSA is required in order to unlock federal financial aid. And we're going to get into the state stuff in another slide, but in Georgia specifically, if you complete the FAFSA, you are also at the same time applying for Hope and Zell Miller scholarship and grant programs. So the FAFSA is that much more important right there. It's unlocking at both levels. But the FAFSA for federal financial aid, that's an acronym, Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And that, again, gives you access. Financial aid kind of breaks down grants and scholarships are some of the words you may hear, as well as loans. And grants and scholarships, in short, those are the ones you don't have to pay back. And loans are the ones you do, because it's loaned to you. All right, so part of the FAFSA, if I really boiled it down for you, it's asking about, hey, what colleges are you interested in? Which ones might you apply to? You can list up to 10. Don't feel like you have to apply to each of them that moment. It's just, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking about this one. This one's been on my mind too. I may or may not do anything with that. You have room for 10. When you add any college of interest to that list on the FAFSA, you are also giving Uncle Sam permission to share that information, share your FAFSA information with that college. And that's important down the road because it's the college level that ties together your financial aid package from Uncle Sam and from the state and from the college. So you want to list the colleges of interest so they know what free money and loans you may have available to you. So it's going to ask for your colleges of interest, your living situation, basically to figure out who claims you on their taxes, who are you someone's dependent or are you living independently. That makes a difference in what tax information they're going to want to know. And when that's figured out, they want to know, your household and tax financial info. That's to figure out the expected family contribution, which boils down to, someone can even be a millionaire, but if their financial situation says, I still have 10 kids though, and 4 of them are going to college, that $1 million gets stretched pretty thin pretty quick. So it is trying to balance those things about the household and the income information and calculate a little bit of an expected family contribution. What can this household be reasonably expected to put towards this student's higher education? And they compare that then to the cost of attendance at the schools that you're interested in, that you said before, hey, I'm interested in going to one of these places. All right, the cost of attendance is the all-in. Not just tuition, but also the room and board, adjusted for cost of living around the campus. If you select that I'm living on campus, it'll say it will dial in the campus housing costs on average. If you say I plan to live in the community around the campus, but I'm living away from home to do that from my household I came from, it will calculate based on kind of cost of living around there. Meal plan at the college cafeteria, average book fees, things like that. So again, cost of attendance, is really a more important figure than just tuition, because tuition is just one piece of that bigger picture. Cost of attendance is what they stack up the expected family contribution to. And if there's a bit of a gap there between the expected family contribution and the cost of attendance, they want to throw some money at you to help you out. So these ones, the Pell Grant. The Pell Grant is one of the heavy hitters from Uncle Sam, and that is a needs-based funding source. I say currently that is up to $6,890. Let's call it $6,900. Okay. That tends to adjust a little bit year to year. This is the current award year's figure. So if you're going to college now and have the full maximum eligibility for Pell, this is the amount you'd get. Going into next year, though, because you're here with us this year, right? You're here with us. So looking at next year, the figures are not released yet, but you can reasonably expect that if you are maxed out eligibility for Pell Grant, you're going to get just under $7,000 each academic year as long as you remain eligible. And as a grant, remember, did I say grants had to be paid back or not paid back? Not paid back, right. So that's the glory of that one. If you are eligible for the Pell Grant, kind of silly not to take it. Then there's the Federal Work Study Program. That one is also needs-based. The way that one works is for on-campus. It's typically on-campus jobs filled by students. If it's filled by a student who's Federal Work Study eligible, Uncle Sam will split the bill of that student's wages with the college. On your end, you're getting your wage. You have a more convenient job that's right on campus. You can funnel that money to your cost of living or to your cost of attendance, but it generally goes to your bank account because it's your wage. It's your wage, but that does give you something more convenient on campus, so you're not having to transport as much off campus. Saves you some time and money. Let's say that to sum it up. And then there are the loans. The loans are the ones we do or don't have to pay back. That one was very much quicker to the punch there. Loans, yes, we are used to hearing that as something we owe back. And while you're thinking about loans, if you have those extended to you, first off, you don't have to take them. I know everybody in here who's wanting to know more about financial aid also wants to avoid what we see in the headlines of, say, the average 4-year college degree graduate is walking out with, I think the last ballpark figure I heard was $30,000 in higher education loan debt. Well, the beauty of an average is that means half of the group is higher than that. That's not the beauty of it. Sorry, that's really, that bites. But about half of that group is lower than that $30,000 figure, okay? If you want to be part of the group that's on the lower, below the $30,000 figure, this is a key thing that when they look into what leads to that exorbitant figure of college debt, one of the key things they find is people don't necessarily know that when they're taking that loan, they don't have to take it. They just see an award letter and they see a bunch of things that are free, and they might accidentally circle accept that loan. It's not quite that easy, don't worry. But, they don't read the breakdown of the funds like they could. The other piece is, let's say you do need some loan money to make ends meet, or to not have to work as much outside of school and maybe struggle in school when you're putting in a lot of hours off campus for work to help afford. You don't have to take the full amount of the loan that's offered to you. Okay. Other important thing is this breakdown, subsidized and unsubsidized. While you are actively pursuing your higher education, Uncle Sam will not let your interest on the loan compound if it's a subsidized loan. Uncle Sam says, no, we'll cover the interest. So in economics class, which has now been retooled a little bit to emphasize personal finance, are the seniors in the room familiar already with interest? Have you studied interest in there yet? Okay, seeing some shaking heads. Good. All right, so interest. You don't want that. That's kind of like the fee for having a loan. Hey, I'm letting you have this money, and I'm just going to add a fee to it the longer you have that money out of my pockets. That's the interest. You don't want interest to rack up while you're in school. So the loans, when they're offered to you, they're usually broken down in two amounts, subsidized and unsubsidized. And if you need any of the loans, dig into the subsidized one first, and only dig into unsubsidized if you have to. That will keep what you owe down to a minimum. It won't be racking up as much while you are still in school, not earning a higher wage from the degree that you haven't earned yet. So anyway, all right. So that's the federal financial aid in a nutshell. From the state of Georgia, we've heard thrown around probably across your whole high school career, or your student's high school, or even just grade school career, Hope Scholarship, Zell Miller Scholarship. So where the rubber meets the road, there's actually a larger family of free money from the state of Georgia, and it kind of comes in pairs. Hope Scholarship and Zell Miller Scholarship, that's for degree programs, and Hope Grant, Zell Miller Grant are for the technical college programs. So like your diplomas, your certificates for skilled trades. And we'll get to that last one too. That's really special. That one's, boy, I almost want to spoil it, but I won't. All right, so the Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship, that's the one for the degree programs. That's the one that's talked about probably more. And that is because we try to prepare you for, hey, the way you establish eligibility is do this in high school. And that is earn a 3.0 Hope GPA for Hope Scholarship. That is academics only. You can't stilt your grades. You can't prop up your GPA with PE when it comes to Hope Scholarship calculation. Okay, there is a state agency that calculates it, so we can't we can't do any funny business to help you out to make sure your PEs raise your GPA or anything. No funny business there. It's the state calculates it based on your transcript information, and it only includes academics. Academics, that's your 4 core and world language. All right, so that's 3.0 GPA, and Zell Miller is like Hope Scholarship's bigger brother. You don't get both. You get one or the other, but Zell Miller is the upgraded version, but it comes at a higher, it requires a higher bar to be met, and that's a 3.7 Hope GPA. But you can see the payoff is different because of that higher bar. You know, if you have the 3.0 GPA and the 4 Rigor credits, that at least 4 Rigor credits, the list that Miss Watkins described before, you'll get about 80% of your tuition covered, not cost of attendance. Remember, we talked about that distinction. This is just tuition, but that's still a good dent in your college expenses. But with Hope Scholarship, that's covering about 80% of your college tuition, whereas Zell Miller Scholarship, it requires a 3.7 Hope academic GPA and the same 4 Rigor credits and pretty good test scores. But they pay for 100% of your tuition at a Georgia public college. It won't be 100% if you go to a private college, but a lot of private colleges can receive Hope funding for you as well. It's just not going to be 100%, but it's going to be a good chunk. So before we move on to the other lines, I want to clarify with the test scores. When I say in one administration, a 1200 combined SAT or a 26 composite ACT, that is, you don't have to get it on your first attempt of either of those tests. They're not going to mix and match. Oh, I did really well on my first ACT attempt in math, but my second ACT attempt had my better English score. They're not going to put those two together and combine it for your composite ACT score. It's whatever you got in one attempt or another. But if you earn a 1200 combined on SAT or 26 composite on ACT, you get pretty handsomely rewarded. All right. Now again, those two get hammered home a little more because it requires a certain performance level in high school. Hope and Zell Miller Grant, those again are for technical certificate or diploma programs, and those actually, you can't establish your eligibility in high school or with your high school performance. It actually starts off when you start taking some of those technical courses. They'll start reading your GPA after a couple terms, or after a term or two, a certain number of classes, and then they'll say, hey, you did pretty good there. Let me pay you back about $1,000 if you studied full-time, or about $1,200 per term if you're studying full-time. Let me pay you back for that semester you just brought your GPA to that level with, your college GPA. And I'll start paying ahead the next semester, and the next semester, and the next semester, as long as you keep your eligibility up and keep on track towards your completion. So those different cutoffs are 2.0, again, college GPA, for a Hope Grant, or for Zell Miller, 3.5. So it may be worthwhile to say here too, who's looking forward to a GPA reset? You don't have to raise your hand, I'm sorry. Who's looking? It can be comforting for people to know your high school GPA or your GPA resets when you get to college. When you start a college transcript, it's just about what you're getting college credit in, okay? So now if you're taking dual enrollment credit with you, that will roll up with you in your GPA calculation in college because those are college credits. But you leave your high school GPA behind. You just have to get to your next steps. One last line there, Hope Career Grant piggybacks on the Hope, or it piggybacks on the Hope Grant. If you are taking a technical certificate or diploma program that is in a high needs area, we have, for too many years, about the time I was going through high school, the message my group of high school, or my classes were getting, my cohort, was 4-year degree or bust. If you're going for higher education, it's not going to be worth anything except if you do 4. We shot ourselves in the foot as a nation and as a state, because we have more people retiring out of the skilled trades now than we do starting to fill their jobs back. Capitalize on that. If you're interested in one of those skilled trades that is in such high demand because of that mistake we made, you can have your Hope Grant piggybacked with a little extra money to actually pay the rest of your tuition for full-time study in that program. So think about it. And GA Futures, that is the website of the state agency that manages all of these and a few other programs from the state. So GA Futures, if you want to check out more about the state college financial aid, I encourage you to check out gafutures.org. All right, now on to the post-secondary school. Oh boy, it goes downhill from here, don't worry. It's more common that they'll more automatically offer you merit-based scholarships. Kind of like I said before, if they look at your high school performance and they're like, boy, we got to lock this one down and make sure they come to us, they're going to offer you some money to make that worth your while. And so they do that to attract high-achieving students oftentimes, or sometimes based on extracurriculars or leadership roles. The college I went to offered class presidents and class vice presidents or student council presidents scholarship. So leadership scholarship type of thing. But they do commonly also offer needs-based scholarships in-house. And so as you get started, looking at a college of interest, or especially once you've applied, especially all the more after you've been accepted, look at their financial aid pages more closely and see what all options they offer a little less automatically. And that can help you close the gap, again, before you have to look at taking a loan. And again, just a friendly reminder, when you're completing the FAFSA, don't forget to add your colleges of interest to your FAFSA release list. If you change your mind on one later, by the way, after you initially file your FAFSA, which is open now, by the way, you can do that, fafsa.gov. Let's say you just, another college came on your radar 2 months from now, and gosh, I already submitted it, and I didn't even have that thing on my radar. You can go back and add it and resubmit. If you filled out your 10 and you have one to add, you can delete one, add the other one, resubmit. So don't panic if you submit and you have changed your mind on what colleges you're interested in. But now the independently sourced financial aid, these are the ones that, again, aren't coming from Uncle Sam, from the state of Georgia, or from the college itself. So these are like the ones, I believe it was Miss Beal described these before, and that includes things like one we facilitate here in partnership with, what was it, about 20 last year? Rough, at least, okay. There's about 20 local organizations that, instead of having their own application process, they partner with us. We gather the student information. You still have to apply. We don't do it for you. But we take your applications, and if they say we're looking for someone who wants to pursue a degree in environmental sciences, I think that's one of them, then we search through the stack of applications and pull those ones out and say, we've got some quality candidates for you. So that one application unlocks potentially about 20 opportunities. But that's one that we happen to do here. There's going to be several more that through the Google Classroom we have set up for seniors. We're continuously announcing them as we get email notifications about them from those organizations offering them. Do read the fine print. That's because sometimes it might say you have to be going to that college or going to a college in Georgia or studying this or studying that. Or it might be just for tuition. And so as you're kind of making your financial aid plan, you'll have to add this into it and see where you might have some extra money that needs to go from tuition from another funding source and put it towards books instead or something. Anyway, just so you're staying in line with the requirements of each scholarship. But there's several that are merit-based, but there are several that are not. Sometimes they specifically say, we don't want to give the 4.0 scholars another set of cash. We want to recognize the 2.5 GPAs who are going into a meaningful line of work, or there's a lot of variety. Some of them are so random as to reward lefties. Are there any other than myself in here? I hope so, but there's a lefty scholarship out there. There's if you speak Klingon, last I knew that one's still running. There's a scholarship for just about anything, and some of them are not very, they might not seem that much. Oh man, my cost of attendance is $12,000, and this scholarship's worth $500. Is it worth my time? They add up. They add up. Cast a broad net. So keep checking out the counseling office scholarship newsletter. These days that comes in the form of our Google Classroom. So check that periodically in your email notifications. And usually once you start at a college, then you can provide proof of enrollment, and those independently sourced financial aid scholarships will send the check. They don't always put it just right into your hands. All right, and bringing all those different components together, again, federal, state, the college itself, and the ones you find on your own. The College Financial Aid Office is going to be one of your best friends as you get started each new semester and year. They tie together the financial aid figures that you're eligible for from the state and from Uncle Sam and from the college, not the ones you source independently. You'll have to kind of mentally add those in when you're budgeting, looking at your free money package and loan package. And you usually have a chance to accept or decline. Some funding sources, again, you have a chance to say partial. I just need this much loan. But truth be told, the FAFSA is asking about last year's tax information. Life happens. A lot can happen in a year, 2 years between a tax year and the time you start college. Okay, that's so much time. And so when that happens, sometimes it's a divorce, or maybe it's there's been a change in employment for one of the family members, one of the income sources. Life happens. If your original submission makes it look like your expected family contribution's higher than it should be, and some life changes have happened, at the college itself, ask for a special circumstances form. I put that in quotes because I'm told that's a higher ed financial aid jargon. Special circumstances form, and that can be a way to update at the local level. Life happened. My financial situation changed. Can I be reconsidered for maybe a little more? I encourage you to do that because life does happen. And then the process doesn't stop when you start college. There are some funding sources that are non-renewable. So this tends to be a lot of the ones that are independently sourced. They might be one and done scholarship opportunities. And so you want to be on the lookout for that. So to avoid a common higher ed financial aid pitfall. Hey, I've got a free ride freshman year. Oh boy. I'm gonna be paying so much out of pocket the next year. How am I going to make this work? A lot of scholarship opportunities that we pass on to you, or more importantly, the scholarship search databases that we have in our resource notes at the end here and on our website. You can search year to year. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities at the college level, from the institution, as well as on the web, that they don't care if you're already in college. They offer to high school seniors and current college students. So look for those, and that can help fill that gap and avoid that pitfall that happens usually after freshman year of college. But also look out for those renewable ones. Those are the ones that, as long as you maintain eligibility, it's going to keep moving forward with you year to year until you're done with your program. All right, so we have some resources here. I'm going to put that on screen again in a second. But for Q&A, we like to let people go. And if you have questions, we're gonna stay to the bitter end. Generally, we can to the bitter end to answer your questions individually up front. So thank you so much for coming. Again, if you haven't filled it out already, that evaluation form helps us sharpen the next presentations we have ahead in the year. So please do drop that on in the basket. on your way out, as well as your transcript request form if you filled that out. Contracts, if you have that ready, the graduation contract, you can drop it off there too. We'll get it to Darlene Dunn and Mandy Newton, the graduation coordinators. But otherwise, you can turn it in to Miss Newton if you turn it in tomorrow or later. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. Have a great night.